Bob Doyle is dressed formally today for our interview. I can't see him, but I know this for a fact. And if you want to see how he's dressed, you can go to his YouTube page and check out his bathrobe music videos because Bob is here in his evening clothes with us today. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm, as we speak right now, it's morning and I'm still kind of getting started. So I'm definitely in the bathrobe. I've actually upgraded the bathrobe from the ones on those videos. So, and I have yet to record it. I have yet to record it. I know no one knows what we're talking about, but I have yet to record a new bathrobe.
Well, why don't you start by telling us about those videos because they were lots of fun for me to watch the other day.
So these were ukulele videos. The uke is one of my passions, obviously, that I picked up a few years ago. It caught me quite by surprise, and it just consumed my life. And one day I was, as soon as I started playing, I started putting stuff up on YouTube. And one day I was at home and I was just in my bathrobe and turned on the camera just because I was working up something, or I don't remember exactly what the deal was, but I recorded the thing and I decided I'm just going to play with this. I had no intention of posting it really at that point. And it was just like, these are the bathrobe sessions, and so I just conceptualized this idea that, I'm going to record a bunch of videos in my music videos in my bathrobe. And I ended up actually doing it. So I can't remember how many there actually are. I haven't done one in a while. But yeah, so the bathrobe sessions are basically a series of me in my bathrobe playing the ukulele and singing mostly jazz standards. Or cool. Standards, maybe not much jazzy, but yeah.
Well, now that you've upgraded your wardrobe, I guess you want to go back and record some more. I
should, but it's really interesting. There's actually a deeper story to that. If you want me to share, what the bath is about. So this takes the direction of the conversation in a completely different area. But hey, let's do it. I say let's go for it. It's interesting that the bathrobe, at that time in my life, I was kind of going, as much as I was passionate about the uke and so many other things, I was actually dealing with a lot of stuff, personal stuff in my life. A lot's been going on for me. I'm in a huge state of reinvention right now. I just moved from Atlanta to L.A. Sort of the direction of my business is changing. I left a year ago. I left a 24-year marriage, so there's lots of stuff happening around that. And a lot of that, the stuff that was leading up to that was causing me, I was stressed is basically what it was. And the bathrobe was kind of like a security blanket for me. I found myself walking around the house in this bathrobe all the time. It's kind of like as I look at it in retrospect, and even then I could see it a little bit, it was sort of this protection mechanism, like somehow when I wear the bathrobe, I'll be safe. You know what I mean? I mean, there's just sort of truly like Linus and his security blanket. And so, when I look at those videos, there's part of that in there is like I look at a person who was kind of hiding. It was kind of, it sort of gave me permission to be playful under this, this parameter of, hey, it's the bathrobe sessions and all of that. But actually inside, I was thinking, wow, I wish I could just, not have to hide behind the bathrobe. And, it's just kind of this, all sorts of strange internal stuff was going on there. And now that I've kind of moved out of that situation and I'm sort of reinventing, like I said, and just moving forward, the bathrobe, when I look at it now, it's kind of like, do I really want to do the bathrobe again? Because it really represented sort of a hiding rather than the playful fun. I wasn't that quirky that most people would probably think with the bathrobe session. So It was more of it was kind of therapeutic for me at the time. So, but who knows? I may take the upgraded bathrobe and do a video or two, just bathrobe set season 2,
Right, or a reinvention maybe. Seeing as to go with your reinvention. Well, that's actually really interesting, and I've already just thrown away all my notes because one of the things that I discovered on my journey and is just how often I have had to reinvent. Well, I shouldn't say I have had to. I've been pushed to reinvent myself, and sometimes not entirely comfortably. I haven't used a bathrobe, but certainly it's been quite the journey. This is not your first reinvention, is it?
No, it's not. It's probably the most challenging and the most in terms of like total do-over. It's this, but I mean, I had sort of a health and fitness reinvention back in 2000. Kind of went from having no interest or participation in fitness into becoming quite passionate about it and starting a website about it where I was featuring people doing physique transformation, and it really became a big part of my life, was helping people to tap into what's necessary to create that sort of a really powerful, significant physique transformation. And at first it was all about the body, and then it was like, wow, this, as I started interviewing people, I realized this is really about passion, life purpose. Why am I here? Why must I get healthy? Why must I, so that's sort of broadened my horizons in terms of the work I was doing, moving from just fitness and that type of thing into the more whole person. And that's when I created the company Boundless Living. It would still be a couple of years before I found the law of attraction and went down that road. But then once I did that, once I found the law of attraction, there was a reinvention as to who I was in the world. I went from being this fitness guy to now this law of attraction guy. So that was different. And I guess just several little things like that. But this is clearly the biggest one, leaving a relationship that went for so long, moving to the other side of the country, like I said, changing my business. It's like everything you could possibly shake up, I'm shaking up right now. And I think it's, in a way, I mean, it's obviously it has challenges because there's so much I'm dealing with. I sometimes wonder, how am I going to do this? But at the same time, it's like, well, I'm glad I'm just getting it all done at once, because I need to go through one and then come up with another and then come up with another.
Right.
And, I'm really fortunate, Mark, that, I do have the skill set that I do. I mean, 12 years of teaching the law of attraction, learning about releasing resistance and negative feelings and limiting beliefs and all of that, all the work that I've been helping people with. Now I really have to become my number one student. I really have to step into what I'm teaching on a whole different level. And that's an interesting position to be in, and it can be even more confronting and more challenging. But on the other side of this, what I know, and well, first of all, it's already put me in a unique position to help people with their reinventions, because really that's what I've been doing for years. It's just been kind of under the the label of teaching the law of attraction. And right now what I'm doing more professionally is saying, the law of attraction is there, but it's subtext. Now reinvention is something that people understand. It's like I don't have to explain quantum physics and all this other stuff and try and get them to get the law of attraction before they decide to work with me. If I tell them I've been helping people do this for however many years and then I can bring them from a business point of view. It's just more accessible, this reinvention thing. But it is so there's that I'm going through it and I'm helping people through it at the same time. And on the other side of it, hey, I'm going to have a new book, and once I know how the story ends, I get to finish the book that I'm writing on reinvention. And and again, just like everything else I've done in my life and shared in a big way online or otherwise, it's just it seems to be a part of my path that I get presented with some sort of a challenge, I go through it, and then I turn around and help other people go through a similar challenge. That's kind of, even back in the fitness days, that's what I was doing. So that seems to be the agreement I made with myself before coming on this planet, that I get to put myself in all these situations, get through them, and then help others. So my job is just to not quit. Yeah.
Well, another one of the reasons why I was so pleased to have you, to be able to have this conversation, is that as I was going through what I knew and then what I discovered that I didn't know, and just hearing the story now, I just see lots of parallels in my own life and in my own work, which is kind of cool. I mean, I teach writing, but kind of like you with the law of attraction, with reinvention, I'm not really teaching writing. I'm really teaching creative living, and writing becomes a tool. So the law of attraction is there to underlie what you're really doing, which is helping people reinvent themselves, which I think for a lot of people is incredibly scary. We are socialized, I guess, to stay in as much control and as safe as we possibly can, and there's nothing less safe feeling than reinventing yourself at any age, especially at an older age.
Yeah, I'm seeing what's happened is, I mean, almost across the board, this is true with reinvention. People reach the point where they realize they have to be, where they need a reinvention, and what they've realized is that the life that they're living isn't actually the one that they want. They have lived into the expectations of others, or they followed a career track because they thought they were supposed to, or whatever. They were just kind of blindly going through, living by default. And then we all reach that point in our lives where we go, wait a minute, this is not, there's no passion, there's no joy here. I'm just, this doesn't feel good. And at that point, people have the choice to either say, I'm going to do something about it, or they go, well, I guess this is just how it is, and they live the rest of their lives like that. And so I stand for people, making the choice to do something. But really this reinvention is the term I've been using when I talk about this, is that we've spent most of our lives de-inventing ourselves. We're born and we've got all of our passions, our potential, everything's right there for us to do, but then we get sidetracked or moved down this or that path, without us even realizing that we're being manipulated off of our path. And so the reinvention is really a return to self. It's a return to honoring, all the aspects of us that we are, and then sharing that, and then creating that person who gets to be all those things. And that's why, man, I loved hearing your introduction. That's the best intro anyone has ever given me, because you really addressed all those various aspects of me. And that's part of my reinvention, really, both personally and professionally, is to integrate all of those things. And there's so many, right? There's music and photography and and writing and all these different things that you said. And it's like, well, how do I really allow myself to be all of those things and provide great value to people? I'm probably going to stay in this personal development industry for a while. It seems to be just natural for me to want to help people in that way. And but how can I blend the ukulele and my passion for puppies and writing into photography and all that? Because you've seen, so my photography is all over the map. I mean, I will do something that I guess would be more readily acceptable or scenic, and then I'll just do some bizarre twisted thing like, where did that come from? But that's all a part. And my music is the same way. On one end of the spectrum, I play the ukulele and those types of things. On the other end of the spectrum, I'll do electronic stuff, which can be really dark and, very visual and just not what you would expect from someone who plays the ukulele or who gets on stages and talks about the law of attraction. So it's like, how do I honor all of those pieces of me and not, so not living with any kind of apology? And what I'm finding is you just do it. You just do it, because what most people do is they try to please everybody or try to please as many people as possible. And that's when they start denying various aspects of themselves, because they think, well, these people won't appreciate this part of me, or this is inappropriate, or this is scary, or whatever it is. But what you end up doing when you do that is you end up attracting people into your life who expect you now to be the way that you've been being. And so you've actually confined yourself more, because now you've really said to the world, well, this is who I am, and I'm not these other things. You're not saying that out loud, but, so now you've got these people, and now these other aspects of you are dying to get out, and now you're too scared to do it because the people around you don't know you that way. They may not accept you that way. So, but the best thing you can do is just to start being every aspect of who you are, and you'll find those people who will support you. It may be a smaller group, but man, they'll be more loyal. They'll be, they'll be a fan. They'll be a cheerleader. From a business point of view, that's great. It's about, there's that terminology about finding your tribe. You find those core group of people who really get you, and don't worry about all the others, and that's kind of what I've had to do, because I was really pigeonholed, or I felt like I was. It was my perception that I had just become Bob Doyle from The Secret. And what Bob Doyle from The Secret does is he gets online and he does a straight-face announcer voice. He teaches the law of attraction, gets on stages. Sometimes he tries to be a little amusing or whatever. But that's what people – I remember I went to Russia and I wanted to play my uke as part of my speech, because I just started to want to do that. And they wouldn't let me, because they're like, no, they expect you to be the guru, right? And don't – if you do anything else, it's just going to confuse them. And I'm like, okay, well – but I mean, in Russia, there's a language barrier and everything, so I can kind of get that. But it did just make me think, no, that's not how I want to do this. I want to do it how I do it, because that's what's going to bring me the most joy, and ultimately I'm going to contribute the most value to the world. So that's where, Facebook is sort of my playground, right? That's where I just sort of throw up my pictures, throw up everything, just the whole thing, and just see what lands. And it's always interesting to me to see what gets the likes and what gets the comments and all of that. And it's hardly ever about the law of attraction or anything like that I'm doing, quote unquote, professionally. People appreciate who you are, who you really are, and when you express that, I think they get that. Like that's a pure expression of him. It's genuine. And that gets a response, and there's a real lesson there.
No, absolutely. I think one of the great words you used at the beginning of that was integration, I've written a lot about that too, about bringing all those aspects of who we are, many of which we've cast aside or forgotten, kind of back into some kind of wholeness. I was having a conversation on the show a couple of weeks ago with an author and photographer. I seem to be talking to a lot of photographers these days. I better pay attention. And he was talking about all the creative things, which is really the visual arts, not so much the writing, that he had rediscovered, that he had forgotten that he'd loved to do as a kid. Yeah. And suddenly they were back in his life, and suddenly he remembered, and suddenly his mother told him, yeah, of course you loved that as a kid. And it's like it's bringing all this stuff back. Favorite quote I'm going to wreck right now is from a very favorite author, Madeleine L'Engle, who wrote the Wrinkle in Time books. And but she's also written a lot about spirituality and creativity in writing. And she said at some point that I am every age I have ever been. And that really spoke to me about integration too, but the notion that, it's not about casting off who we were, it's about adding on to who we've been. And I think what you said just really, really speaks to that.
Yeah, I agree. That's a cool quote.
I was looking on your bio on the Wealth Beyond Reason site, and here was a sentence I loved because, once again, I could have written it in my memoir, which is called Strangely or Not, Acts of Surrender. You wrote, the day came that I just gave up trying, and in essence asked the universe for direction, and committed to following my intuition without question, regardless of how far off path the signs I got seemed to take me. I simply trusted and let go of having to have all the answers myself. That really seems to sum it all up, doesn't it?
Yes, that's how it works. Our brain gets in the way and slows us down tremendously because of all the rules, quote unquote, that we've learned, and what's responsible and what is, practical and all of those things. And the universe just doesn't work that way. And the more that you can start to function like the universe does, which is a free-flowing, effortless, energetic flow, then the easier things will get in life for you. And having said that, wouldn't it be great if we could do that all the time? But, the fact of the matter is our brains are filled with years and years of experience and beliefs and, patterns that we don't even recognize as being patterns or beliefs. We just go, this is the way things are, and so when this happens, I'm going to feel this way. When this happens, I'm going to feel confused. When this happens, I'm going to feel angry, and, all the stuff that we've learned, rather than just experiencing life and going with the flow, being able to really tune into your intuition and take that action without judgment. Because that whole thing, like you were reading from what I said, it's like without judging whether or not it seems to be taking me off path or not. You have to, if you're going to play this game, if you're going to surrender to the universe and work with law of attraction principles or whatever, you got to go full out. You have to fully trust the process. Sometimes it's just important to take a step back and look at the intelligence behind the creation of the universe and go, wow, I could never think of that. And realize that the infinite intelligence that we are connected to and have access to is always going to be far superior to what we can come up with in our intellect. And so, and we have, like I said, we have access to it, and the mechanics of working with, quote unquote, the law of attraction are fairly simple. It's just that our brains get in the way and slow things down or stop things completely or reverse the flow of things because we analyze and we try to be logical, and we use our past experience as a reference for truth and all this other stuff, rather than just being in the moment and going where the universe takes us and being clear on our vision. Because when we're really clear on that and we're passionate about it, like you talked about at the beginning, when you have that passion and you have clarity and your thoughts aren't cluttered with how's this going to happen? This isn't happening fast enough. No one's going to want it, whatever it is. That's what slows us down, because you're actually telling the universe, I'm not ready.
I loved what you said a while back about your new book, which was, as soon as I know the ending, I will finish it, because that's when I write, when I talk about writing or teach about writing. I don't outline. I don't know the story except as I'm writing it, and to me it's a great metaphor for living. I don't know the story except as I'm living it from moment to moment, and it's the same way that I write, which is, again, very much what you're talking about. There's one of my favorite quotes on my good days, one of my own. Well, you write what you just like you teach what you need to learn, you write what you need to hear, right? So
yes.
There's a quote in The Moon Quest, which is the first novel in my fantasy trilogy, the Cantata trilogy, which goes, in fact, I think that quote appears in all three books, probably because I still needed to hear it, which goes, you either trust or you do not. There is no halfway in between. And I think, again, you're speaking to that notion of surrender, of trust, and of knowing that in the ways the universe works, however you want to define any of those terms, it does work out if you let it.
Yes, if you let it. And sometimes it seems like it's not working out, but that's all of our interpretation, because we have an experience that we've learned is supposed, this is hard, this is tough, this is emotional, this is frustrating, but we've learned all of that stuff. Situations just are. We are the ones who give meaning to it all.
Right. And so we have a choice as to what meaning we give to it. And
right.
I think part of the challenge, I suppose, and the opportunity is that as we're trying to shed all those kind of intellectual brain mechanisms that tell us how it's supposed to be, that way it's quote supposed to be is supported in our culture, in our media, in the life we live outside in the outside world, and I think it takes a lot of strength and courage, which doesn't mean no fear. It just means courage to move past that and to transcend that, if you will, and to live the kind of imperatives you're talking about without regard for all the ways that the old way of thinking is supported, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, look, and one of the things I found is, the longer you wait to take this action for a reinvention or claiming what you really want your life to be, the harder it can be sometimes, because you just, you keep building onto this quote-unquote truth of who you are and what you're about, and you get more and more support from everyone around you, and all your situations line up to that. And the more ensconced you are in that, the harder it is to break free, and it can seem much harder. And that's kind of what I'm going through. I've delayed a lot of this stuff for many, many years that I should have done. And as a result, it's occurring as harder to go through because there's so many different levels and more people are affected and all of those different things. But, again, I'm clear that whatever I'm going through right now and whatever people go through, it's just that's there's some term that I'm trying to think of it, but it's this rite of passage. You go through it, and it is scary to do that. Like you said, I mean, it's to change who you are in the world, even though it's really who you really are. If you've learned that parts of who you are aren't appropriate or won't be accepted, to even think about sharing those pieces of yourself with the world can be really, really frightening. But you just keep doing it, and then eventually things will shift. And like I said, the circumstances around you, the people around you, all of that will start to change. You just got to hold the vision. You got to know why you're doing it. Whatever it is that you're taking on, you got to be really clear that this is so important for me to do. Like I knew I can't live another day like this. I've got to change things because I have to. Now some people, that's the point that I was talking about. That's that decision point. Some people don't make that decision. Right. Some people say it's going to be too hard. It's going to be too painful. I don't know how to do it, so I'm just stuck. And that's how they live their lives. And what I want to be a champion for is for people who are in that situation to go, no, you do not have to do that. And there are ways to make this transition quicker, and that's where this law of attraction stuff comes in, because when you understand how things come in and out of your life and why they're there in the first place and what you need to do to change what you're attracting, that can speed up the process tremendously.
One of the things that, just breaks my heart when I read a post on Facebook, for example, from people who basically have walled off 8 hours of a day as being unpleasant and being okay with that. And when you kind of multiply that out as to how many, years of their life that represents, it's tragic.
Oh my God, you're so right. You're absolutely right. And that's why I think one of the things that I love about this work that I do is when I can coach someone into having that shift where they suddenly see possibility for themselves, where they realize that, wow, they really can, even though they don't know how, even though it might be, challenging or whatever, but it is possible for them to have the life they want when they can see the vision for themselves, when they recognize their value, when they tap back into their passion or whatever. It's like watching a birth. It's really, really inspiring, just as sad as it is to watch someone kind of just give up their life like that. It's just as inspiring to watch somebody reclaim it.
Absolutely, and I think it's awesome that you shared the story, of your own reinvention here, and I'm sure elsewhere, because I think for a lot of people that kind of modeling is really important to say, well, somebody whose life seems to be perfect and together, it wasn't necessarily, and hey, I can still reinvent myself, and here's my story. I think that's just so powerful. Almost as powerful as the work itself for other people to hear.
It is very important for people to know that me or anybody in this personal development industry who are teaching concepts or whatever, they're real people too. They have resistance too. They have their stuff. We all have our stuff. And what I've found is that, for some people, if you share your stuff, maybe they go, oh, well, okay, he doesn't have the credibility with me anymore because I need somebody who's all together all the time. That's what they need. But
Good
for
luck.
the most part, what I found is that by sharing, and it's true. So, but other people, I found that every time I've shared what's really going on, it's only helped me. It's helped my relationship. It's helped my connection with students and on like that, because it doesn't affect my ability to do what I do or to have impact or any of that stuff, that I've got stuff in my life, I'm just a student just like everybody else. I have my skill set of helping other people. And a lot of times it's a lot easier to help other people through their stuff than it is your own. And so I've just kind of had been delaying taking on my stuff for years and years and years. And now I'm just saying, you know what, I'm going to take it on. And so I'm doing that while still doing what I'm doing. But it's really, you caught me at an interesting time. In some ways I'm feeling more effective than ever. Like when I communicate what I'm up to, explaining people about teaching the law of attraction was always a nightmare for me. Like any kind of a party situation. What do you do? Oh, geez. Because if they're not in the conversation, how do you even go down that road? You can generally start with, have you seen The Secret? If they say yes, it's easy. If they say no, it's like, oh, boy. So the reinvention and that kind of stuff is easier to communicate. But honestly, Mark, what I would love is to be at a party one day and people say, what do you do? And I just say, I play the ukulele and play with puppies.
I think
that's and then take pictures and write music and all those creative things, because that is one of the things that is screaming inside me, is the creative self-expression. It's what I always knew my life was driven by. Originally, I wanted to be in radio so that I could be creative on the radio and do audio production and things like that. So the creative aspect of me is what really wants to come out in the world. And so, like I say, I use Facebook as this sort of dumping ground of every little thing that pops into my head to do. But there's no structure around it or whatever. Some people find it, some people don't. Some people like it, some people have no opinion. But it just it puts me in the sharing mode. And what I would love to do is to kind of get that all organized in some way. And, so the reinvention is still in progress, but I'm clear that right now what I should be doing in terms of just plain old professional, this part of this, is helping people with their reinvention. How long I'll be doing that, I don't know. And but just like I didn't know how long I was going to do fitness, I didn't know how long I was going to teach the law of attraction, law of attraction. Still, still doing it in the background, but who knows? I'm just really, truly just trusting the flow. But I do feel that something is really close around the corner with the creativity and the blending of all of it, and finding that, finding that. I'm actually, behind the scenes, look, I'm actually going through a professional rebranding right now. So, these are people who look at everything you do and say, well, here's how we can package you, and just the whole thing. And I'm actually finding that really helpful, because sometimes those people can look at what I do and it seems so disjointed and unorganized to me, and they go, well, I see it completely. Here's how you can play with puppies and play the ukulele on a boat and make a difference, And that's, I've been told that. This whole ukuleles and puppies thing, I really am passionate about the uke because it is such a great tool for creative self-expression for just about anybody. Certainly was for me. And then puppies, who doesn't love puppies? It's, unconditional love and enthusiasm and playfulness, all the things that, so those two things really encapsulate what I want my life to be, filled with playfulness and fun and unconditional love and creative self-expression. So,
well,
I was just going to say,
go ahead.
Technology. So I just to finish the thought, I grabbed ukulelesandpuppies.com and puppiesandukuleles.com, knowing that someday I'll do something with that, but I don't know exactly what that looks like yet.
Well, I was going to say, before I invite you to play the ukulele, which I'm going to do in just a minute, was, what's more creative than creating a life, which is in fact what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, Mr. We can't do puppies on the radio unless you can bark. Maybe you can. I don't know. We haven't gotten to that. But you can play the ukulele for us. And so if you wouldn't mind just picking up your instrument and giving us something.
I will.
From your
and
passion.
I hope this translates on the phone. I'll just do one verse of this, because if it doesn't translate on the phone very well, then I don't want people to have to suffer through it. But this was perfect timing for you to do this, because I am going to blend ukuleles and puppies with this, because Harry Nilsson wrote a song called The Puppy Song. Do you remember this song?
Uh-huh.
Harry Nilsson.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm going to do a verse of that, because it's just fun. And this is whatever. So here we go. Can you hear that okay?
Yeah.
Can you hear okay. Dreams are nothing more than wishes, and a wish is just a dream you wish could come true. I wish that I could have a puppy. I call myself so very lucky. Just to share a cup of tea, with me, I'd take my puppy everywhere. La 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 la, I wouldn't care. But we would stay away from crowds, and signs that said no dogs allowed. Oh, I know he'd never bite me. Oh, I know he'd never bite me. Oh, 'cause dreams are nothing more than wishes, and a wish is just a dream you wish could come true. Your wish can 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 come true. Oh, dreams are nothing more than wishes, and a wish is just a dream you wish could come true.
What a great song, and what a great theme song. Actually.
Yes, I would imagine it would have to become my theme song at some point. Now then it's just, now I got to get the rights to it. Great. Now what?
Or, you can write your own puppy song.
I do. I need to write a ukuleles and puppy song. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's a good go-to. Hadn't played that in a while. That kind of snuck up on me. I'm playing this and going, oh, wait a minute. I don't know what to play right here. I forgot the words right here. I just thought that was so programmed in my mind that I would never forget that. And it's interesting, Mark. I mean, I'll share this with you. Is one of the things that the uke has done for me is take away the fear of, forgetting chords or forgetting words, which was what paralyzed me from performing for years. Number one, I didn't sing, period, before the uke, really. But I always worried about making mistakes when I was doing the piano or the guitar. And there was something about the uke that was just so freaking forgiving. Like the perception of the audience would be completely different. And it's like, oh, it's the uke. Who cares if he sings in tune? If it's out, whatever. I mean, and that may or may not be true, but for me, it gave me the permission to start playing and sharing like the day I got the instrument. It was like immediately go from never performing, never sharing music to getting on YouTube immediately and saying, got a uke today. Here it is. Boom. So, yeah, I mean, it's significant for me on that level.
So I know I did read that you were doing a lot of music in the past. How did you and the uke find each other? What's the story behind that?
I was just getting really serious about the guitar. In 2008, I put together something called the Balanced Living Challenge. It was all about helping people in 45 days take something on in their life that they had always wanted to do but had been stopped. And so I created this big support community and all that. It was huge. But part of the deal was that I had to do it too. So I took on this fear of performing. So I, got all this coaching and I put on an event in Austin where I actually played the piano and I played the guitar and I sang. So I did the thing. I stepped through the fear, but it really wasn't a total transformation inside. It was just like something I had to get through. But it did reawaken my passion, or my interest anyway, in the guitar. And so I started really taking on the guitar and saying, I'm going to get better at this. I'm going to learn more than the same 7 chords I've been playing since I was 8 years old. And but that didn't happen. I just kept buying new guitars instead of actually learning new chords. And like I said, I still wasn't singing comfortably at all. We were at a Jimmy Buffett concert, which I've only been to one, and pulls out the uke, and my wife at the time leaned over and said, it'd be fun to have, this was in 2010, it'd be fun to have a ukulele. I'm thinking, yeah, that would be fun to have a uke. And so her birthday was around the corner, so I bought 2, one for her and one for me, just starter ukes, I didn't know anything about them, which ones to get, whether or not I was going to like it or whatever. But once I started playing, it was just like, oh my God, this is it. And I realized that even though it has 4 strings, you can do some really complicated sounding stuff with it. There are some jazz chord voicings that sound really complex. And I'm like, wow, I had no idea you could get this kind of sound out of this. So I just started diving in to finding all these jazz songs that had a more complicated chord structure than just your typical uke song, which would be like, 3 chords. And so my whole, it's changed everything. It's changed my ability to, like my pitch has gotten better, in terms of just being able to anticipate what chords are. My repertoire of chords is huge now compared to before. And there's just so much more flexibility. Plus the fact that it's portable, you can take it anywhere. And so there's just so much about it. But like I said, the biggest thing for me was just the breakthrough in my own expression. But it was just about picking one up. That was all it took, was picking it up and playing a couple of chords and going online and finding, some chord charts for some songs that I was mildly interested in, and my whole world just changed.
And so when is the first Bob Doyle ukulele CD, recording, you can't call them CDs anymore, no one buys CDs, recording coming out?
It's interesting that you asked that, because it was like a couple of years ago I went to Austin and got with a producer and actually did some recording, but we never did anything with it. And I'm actually glad now, because shortly after that my style up-leveled tremendously. I got a new level of confidence. I started playing things in a different way, started, just expanding how I express myself through the singing and the playing. So I'm really glad I really didn't do that then. I want to do that yesterday. It's just about creating the time to do it. Now that I'm in LA, I think probably I've got many more options than I did in Atlanta in terms of finding a place to do it, maybe co-writers and things. That's the other thing. I'd like to actually write some songs as opposed to just playing other people's all the time. I mean, that was great for learning, and it's fun for open mics and things like that. But what I really want to do is start creating and expressing, like I did with, when I was doing mostly electronic music. I was composing original stuff, and that's really what I want to do. But what's happened from playing 3 years of other people's music, and especially these jazz things, is that my ability to write and what I have, if I hear it in my head, I'm more likely to be able to do it now, because I know so many freaking chords and I practice so many hours all the time that it happens almost automatically. So hopefully soon, let's say a year.
So Bob Doyle, Puppy Jazz. You heard it here first.
That's Puppy Jazz. Oh my God, I really like that.
Just give me an acknowledgement somewhere.
Well, the other thing I wanted to do, one of the other things that I keep saying that I want to do that I've done very little of actually is animation, computer animation. I play with it a lot, but I don't share too much of it because I haven't gotten it where I want. But I did have this vision of doing a ukulele CD with songs that I would release to the world through or share through animating some of them, like creating animations to go along with these songs, and just do some really crazy, fun stuff that hopefully would get, some interest and pass around as a sort of a pre-marketing thing for the CD itself and all that. So I've got the vision, just haven't taken the action
Cool. Yet. Well, one step at a time. One of the things that is so much fun talking to you is just how passionate you are, and about how passionate you are about having fun, about doing the things that you love to do, and kind of leaving the others behind. I'm not, like I said in the intro, you did say at some point, and maybe it was in that same bio I quoted from earlier, that if it isn't fun, you're not interested.
Yeah, that's true, and I try so hard to live by that. That got, in honesty, I mean, that was really easy for a while. Like after The Secret, it was a coast. It really was. And but then I think I got a little too comfy. I lost track of my vision, that's for sure, because of the other parts of my life. It was like, the number one thing you got to have is a vision, and I just didn't. I lost the ability to have one because of what was going on for me personally. So I kind of just fell behind. And so now I feel like, part of this reinvention is catching up and getting a team and doing all that so I can go back to really, truly just doing the things I love to do, because right now there's definitely a mix, and but that's the whole thing about, living your passion. We all have the ability to do that and not have to do things we don't want to do. We can all do that, but it just takes some action to get to that point, committing to what you want to do, committing to finding the people in your life to support you in the ways that, doing the things that you don't want to do, creating a big vision with a big game, figuring out how are you going to contribute value to the world by doing your passion. Then it all just works. It all makes sense. But most of us go, well, I have this passion, but how am I going to make money from it? No one wants this, or I'm not as good as so-and-so, and, all those things that just stop them from doing it. So they relegate their passions to hobbies, and they just do them a few hours a week when it could be completely the other way around. But again, we're just not taught that. That's just not how we're raised. Some people's the passions are cultivated, and these are the really lucky people who from a very early age, their parents see it in them and they cultivate it. But what mostly happens is we have our passions as youth, but then we get sent to through this educational system, which basically beats it out of us, and teaches us a whole different rule set of what we're supposed to be doing. So that reconnection is, that's the first piece, I mean, as in my role as a facilitator for transformation for people, that's really the hardest part, is reconnecting people to their passion that they have lost, where they just don't even know what they love to do anymore, what they would love to do. They don't even give themselves permission to go there because it's like too painful, because maybe they tried at one point and failed because of a belief system or whatever else. It didn't happen then. And so now they're just scared, and they don't even want to think about it because it's too painful, because they so would rather be a painter or a photographer or a musician, but they don't even allow themselves to think about it anymore because of whatever experience they had earlier around that.
That's a really good example. I mean, one of my major passions, not surprisingly, is writing, and I was probably too scared growing up in my early adult life to even admit that I wanted to write. I mean, it wasn't even a passion I was consciously hiding. It was a passion I was consciously unaware of. Mm-hmm. And it took a very pushy muse, I guess, very tricksterish muse, to get me to the point where I could see it, embrace it, and not be able to walk away from it.
And that's such a great gift for something to come in and inspire you to take that action and awaken that in you. I have found that in my life as well, in the past year, where, a muse shows up and all of a sudden something's unleashed and you get to honor that piece of yourself.
I mean, for me, it was kind of funny in a sense, because I joke that I was tricked little step by little step until I'd taken so many little steps that I'd already taken a big step and I couldn't turn back. I didn't really know what was going on through those little steps until one day I woke up and, hey, I was a writer and I had no idea how I got there until I actually began to look back and see what had happened, which actually writing that memoir was very helpful for that because I could actually see the stages and the steps that I had not really even been conscious of. I've been so scared and running so fast and so hard away from passions that I couldn't even admit. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that. And I have encountered, in my own teaching and coaching work, people who have been shut down or, again, run away from their creativity because they don't even know why, because in some cases.
Yeah, well, the creativity is, that's really at the core of my passion, right? So music, photography, writing, it's all about creativity. But that's not the only thing that's creative, right? We think about creativity as being the art and music and things like that, but everything we're up to can be a creative endeavor. So it's really all about honoring our ultimate creative self-expression, but that's also one of the most personal aspects of us. And so, I know I've had times in my life when I've shared a piece of music with somebody and they made a comment and I didn't want to write music ever again. You know what I mean? It's like because they had their interpretation or their impression of it. But I just, you bare yourself every time you do something creative like that, especially if you really, really are authentic with it and really go deep and share yourself in a deep way, whether it's through music or photography or writing or whatever it is. And so you open yourself up to, some of the most visceral reactions because, if you put it out there, you are basically inviting the world to say something about it, to have an opinion about it. That's what, as a creative artist, a creative person in general, it's a risk that we take. And if we're not willing to take that risk, then, we deny that part of ourselves. And so we lose either way. If we can't be that person in our lives, then we're not really living our lives and we're going to waste the opportunity that we have to be us. So if we can just toughen up and say, okay, everything, who I am, what I'm up to, how I do it is not for everyone, but it is for me. And there are people who will appreciate it and do that. Then if you can just not let the people who don't get you bother you, then there's no problem. You get to be you get to express yourself, you get to contribute the value, and those other people, they'll go find the people that inspire them. So it's, but it's kind of the terminology to get a thick skin, but it really doesn't have to be looked at that way. It's just going with the flow. You just appreciate the differences between who you are and who those people are and realize that, okay, my gift isn't here for them, but I'll just keep putting it out there until I find the people that it's for. And, really, anybody who has doubts about that kind of thing can look out in the world and see businesses that are the craziest thing that you wouldn't think would work. They don't appeal to you, but they obviously appeal to somebody. Same thing with music and art. There's an audience for everything, but you'll never find them if you keep it inside you, and you can't let, the opinions and the attitudes, no matter how strong they are from others, allow you to deny yourself of who you really are.
Well, and that brings us back to living life as a creative act, because as you pointed out, it's not just about art and music and writing and the the traditional creative expression. It's about living your authenticity, which in itself is a creative act. And all the things you just said apply perfectly to that as well.
Mm. Yep.
So let's see. Let me go back to my abandoned notes and see what else I wanted to talk about. I want to ask about magic. You haven't talked about magic.
I'm glad you brought that up because this is something, as I was thinking about our conversation today, I wanted to get out there about kind of what drives me. And magic is like, so close-up magic is a passion that I revisited. It really became a passion in like 2004. My dad was a professional magician, so when I was a little kid, I'd play with the magic tricks and thought it was just kind of neat. But there was something that awakened in me in 2004 around close-up magic, not like stage magic where I'm going to make an elephant disappear and that kind of stuff, because that's just, that's technology. But there's something about, a close-up thing with a card and a coin and that type of thing where it inspires this sense of wonder. Like, how did that happen? It happened right in front of my face. But it opens up this whole, like I said, the sense of wonder, the sense of magic in the viewer, and that really inspires me. One of the things that drives me is about creating, just creating. So one of the things I love about photography, specifically with Photoshop, right, is go take the picture, and now you can create anything you want. You can create anything you want if you know how to use the tools, right? So that, you know, and that's what my work is all about, right? Law of attraction, create anything you want. And magic also creates this sense that even though there's a method to it, right? But what it does is it inspires something inside of us that I think is really, really special. And so I would love, like, I never had any intention of going out and performing magic, going to restaurants, or making money from it. I literally did it because of how it made me feel to see the outcome of a trick. You know, how did that card do that? Where did that coin? I mean, even though I know the secret, you know what I mean? It's just like just to watch it happen and just go, wow, it was just cool to me on many levels. Number one, that people thought of it. People came up with the method, that it's been passed down. I mean, even though magic is sometimes laughed at by people who aren't magicians or whatever, it's actually a really, really cool craft. And talk about getting into your inner game and all of this stuff. There's just so much about it that appeals to my sensibilities. But it really is about creating an experience. Like, I want my music to create an experience. I want my photography or my drawings, I want them to create an experience in the person who's viewing them or whatever. And that's with everything I do. I want that. And magic definitely creates an experience if done well.
Well, I guess it creates an experience either way. It's just the kind of experience it creates.
Not the intended experience. But yeah, that was another thing. As I'm sure you know about that because of the YouTube videos and stuff like that. That was another thing that I saw that, well, YouTube, like, I won't go perform in a restaurant, but I will turn on a camera in YouTube and play with it. And the stuff I did on YouTube was all sort of tongue-in-cheek, almost making fun of the online magic industry, because there's a lot to make fun of, with great respect. I'm just saying that the people who would appreciate those magic videos are mostly people who are magicians. Like, I'm not trying to fool anybody. It's more of a parody of what that is, while trying to show some genuine ability in most cases. So it was just kind of a fun little thing for me to do that I did for, 6 months, and then moved on to something else, which is what I do.
I love what you said, though, at the outset of talking about magic, which is you did it because of the way it made you feel. And I think that, that really speaks to, all the things that you've taken up and are either still active in or not, and really all the things that you teach and talk about, right? From law of attraction right back to the physical stuff through law of attraction, back up to reinvention. How does it make you feel? About yourself, about the world.
I'm just really committed to. I don't always succeed, but I'm committed to enjoying the things that I do in my life every hour of the day. I hold that vision for as many people that are open to it as possible. So if I run into a person who really wants that in their life, I love working with those people. If they're action takers and really committed and they want it, to truly enjoy their life, because I know it's possible. Because for the most part, that is my life. This reinvention stage is a little interesting, but you can just look around the world and realize it doesn't mean that nothing ever is going to happen that isn't enjoyable or whatever. But it's a basic approach to life. I'm not going to settle. I'm not going to compromise. I'm not going to be okay with spending 7 or 8 hours of my day doing something I don't like to do. It's just not. That's not acceptable.